Hi, this panel discussion will be titled Making the Connection Between the Digital and Non-Digital World. How can we be aware of digital gaps that still exist, and what action can we take to bridge the gap? Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Sanjaya, and by day I am a growth consultant in a digital customer experience platform where I help organizations create greater experiences for their customers throughout the entire customer journey. For my personal passion, exploring ways of effective communication to bring awareness and action towards social causes. Today, we're going to be talking about making the connection between the non-digital and digital world, which is a rather big topic. So for the purpose of this 90-minute or over an hour discussion, we'll be focusing on three main areas. Firstly, I'd like to try and explore the mental health state online, particularly due to the isolation that COVID has been affecting all of us. Secondly, which communities are most impacted by the digital gap? And third, who is responsible for the gap, and how can we all do better to do our part to do better? So to start things off, I would like to really, it's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelists. With no particular order, we have Darren Tay from Malaysia. How are you, Darren? Welcome.
Hi, good. Very good. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So Darren is a startup investor, a chief metaverse officer, and co-founder of Patio de Estrategias and IGS. Thank you for being here, Darren.
Welcome. My pleasure.
Welcome. Next, we were supposed to have Victor Wus from the Ukraine, but unfortunately and ironically, similar to our topic title of connectivity, he unfortunately had some connection issues. So we will hopefully see him again in another panel discussion, but today he won't be joining us. And next, we have Mani Lakiraju. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly, Mani?
Hi, this is Mani Lakiraju.
Lakiraju, okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us, Mani. Mani is also a startup mentor, a serial entrepreneur, a fund facilitator, and a no-code specialist. Thank you very much, Mani, for joining us from India. I know you're very busy, and thank you for making the time today.
Thank you, Sanjay. It's my pleasure to be on this panel. Thank you.
Great. And last but not least, we have Patrick Klotz. Patrick is based in Malaysia, but I believe he's originally from the great land of Switzerland. Patrick helps companies to be successful on the digital journey, from consultancy to creating digital solutions. He's also a TED speaker. He is one of MIA's 100 most inspirational LinkedIn icons in Malaysia. And he is also a partner and mentor of the Startup Zone in Malaysia. And he also hosts his own entrepreneur podcast called Pat's Chat. How are you today, Pat?
Thank you very much for the intro. I'm very fine, even though it's a bit late, but yeah, I'm excited for this panel discussion. So thanks a lot.
Great, my pleasure. All right, so to get things started, is that if everyone is tucked in for this conversation, what I wanted to do is actually get the audience to get to know you, the panelists, a little bit more. So maybe with a bit of story and focus on why you chose a specific area of expertise and experience that you have. Starting off with Darren. Darren, you have a title, very interesting title called the Chief Metaverse Officer. What does this job title mean? Even I'm very new to it. So how would you explain what you do as a Chief Metaverse Officer to a layperson?
Okay. Yeah. I mean that indeed that's a very new title. All over the world, metaverse is a, even though metaverse is not a very new terms, but I mean like the hype is just happening lately after the NFT. Now metaverse is well, in a normal way, we say that is a new dimension, a new world, which is I mean like quite similar to the world that we are now, but I mean like it's in different dimension, where I mean everything is possible there. The easiest way to imagine is like like avatar, where we put up some gadgets, then we can sit comfortably in our sofa, and I mean like we can go into the new world where I mean we can be whoever we want, we can do whatever we want, and that is metaverse. So the easiest way to imagine that is like what you see in movie Avatar, as well as some other movies. So basically my role as a chief metaverse officer is mainly because I foresee this metaverse is going to be something great, and also is potential in the marketplace. So my job is to mainly to explore, as well as to find the opportunity, where the new marketplace, as to put metaverse as a new marketplace, where it's just like, I mean, years back, businesses start to do their digital, what we call it, digital marketing in social medias, and I mean, in futures, social media is not enough. You have to go into metaverse to get the right person, because I mean, metaverse is getting more and more users nowadays. Especially, I mean, like we look at worldwide, I mean, like the percentage of using it, it start to grow, and I mean, it's growing rapidly. So I can foresee that, I mean, metaverse is coming to every one of us here, shortly.
Yeah, the virtual world. I heard you saying NFTs. Now, one thing I
Yes.
didn't put in my title, and one of my real passions as well, is artistic creation. Right, I love to do art and create things. So I definitely will be reaching you offline to get a bit more information about what inside stories you have about NFT, because it's still very new to me. But thank you for that introduction. Moving on to money. Money. One thing that stood out for me, which I mentioned earlier, was your title as a no-code specialist. What does that mean? Please, that's also very new to me, and I'm quite sure a lot of people have not heard of a no in front of a title.
Thanks, Ranjan. Yes, you're right. I'm glad that you asked that question. Yes, you're right. I'm a no-code specialist, and my job is very interesting. Let me explain. What I do is help startups, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, business owners to identify the need for no-code or low-code or code optionals, and advise them the right solutions to achieve their innovation digital goals. And as a no-code specialist, I design no-code solutions, conduct trainings, demo days, certification courses, tech jams, workshops, hackathons, and many more, basically to empower citizens to become citizen developers and citizen integrators, right? And my aim is to drive citizen developers movement on a large scale, and I'm hoping for the best. That's what I do as a no-code specialist. Thank you.
That's
Over to
fantastic.
you.
That's fantastic. So that basically means that with very little or no education or having to learn a course in coding, people can start building applications that they find a need or they find a gap in the market that they can fulfill. Is that correct?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Right.
So, yeah,
Yep, go on.
no, that's all. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So just a quick question: Is no code applicable both on web and app, or is it just on only on one of the mediums?
Yeah, it is applicable on both ways. You can see basically these no-code platforms offer the interface which can run on a web, on a mobile, or on tab, on laptop, on desktop. Device is just a input criteria for it. Like you just have a link for the final app, and you can just run it. Whichever is
Fantastic.
compatible, you can just run it. Yeah, and it also runs
Fantastic.
on Android, iPhone, lot of devices it can actually.
Great,
Right.
great. Thank you for that introduction, and great to have you here. Patrick, just in time. I saw you had a little bit of a disappearing act, but you're back. Great to have you just in time for your introduction. So, Patrick, with the work that you do, right? Patrick, you work with a lot of companies on their digital journey. What would you say is the biggest challenge that they face in changing mindsets in the organizations that you work with?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe the biggest challenge is to not press the wrong button when you're in a live show. Yeah, but that happens. Sorry for that. But yeah, thanks for the question. And I mean, it's quite a good question, and somehow the answer is within the question, because I think the biggest challenge is really changing the mindset. I mean, you have a lot of challenges, of course, on this journey. The technology is just one. That is probably also the one we are most aware about, right? If you talk about digital transformation, then everyone immediately say, oh, it's technology, right? And then you hear like all the fancy technologies. Oh, that's IoT, that's AI, that's machine learning, that's blockchain, and yeah, that of course that is part of it, but there's so much more, right? And I think the awareness is maybe another big challenge, right? What does it really mean? And what can we do with it? That is probably the first challenge. And once people know what it is, to make change their mindset, that is the biggest, that is the next biggest challenge. Yeah. So again, I think it goes far beyond uh, technology. Sometimes I hear now with the pandemic, we started to use Zoom and even collaboration teams, MS Teams. Now we are fully digitized. But of course, that's not a digital transformation, right? That is just like you use a different tool than you used before. So I think also when we talk about the journey, that we talk about the different terms, like we start with the digitization, which is making physical objects into digital objects, right? So you don't have a paper form, but you have a virtual or a online sign up form, right? That is the first stage, and only if you have that, then you can go into automating your processes and make the processes also digital, where we talk about digitalization, right? That's also next stage, and only when you have also this in place, then you can think about like a company-wide digital transformation. And I think that is the most important thing, right? What is digital transformation? It's a company-wide change. It's not like a siloed approach anymore. It goes across all the business units, so everyone can work a little bit closer together, can work with the same data sets together, but also like a complete change in the culture, of course, and in the leadership, which we talk probably later a little bit. So when we talk about digital transformation, we talk about a lot more than just technology. We talk about the customer centricity, competition, or even co-opetition. So working with your competitor together in some areas, so both can grow. And instead of taking a piece of the cake from each other, they can grow the cake bigger, right? And everyone will have a bigger piece in the end. We talk about data, we talk about innovation, like business model innovation, value skills, strategy. And so, again, going back to the question, I think the awareness first, that is one thing. And changing the mindset of people, especially leaders, right, that have to carry the transformation. That is probably the biggest challenges that we see.
Fantastic. Thank you for that insight. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there that you had already mentioned, right? So I mean, from first part itself, from a perspective, or even me being in digital space and working in customer experience platforms, you had already unpacked quite a few different nuggets there, where the general public might just think, oh, the challenge of going digital is just accessibility and affordability. but you already touched on a few points where there's a lot of other things involved in order to get everyone to be digital and synergized online. So actually, that's a great segue to our first segment of today's discussion. I thought before we get into discussing how we connect the non-digital and digital world, I want to take a moment to actually define it, right? So elaborate a bit more of what Patrick was just speaking about. So Patrick, you and I just had a moment last night to have a quick chat, and there you touched on this very point that you mentioned, right? It's not just about the technology will continue to keep evolving, right? And there are certain things that we should do and we can do in order to keep up with these changes. And one of the things that you mentioned that was really important, I believe, is leadership, right? So do we see digital leaders coming about today, or what's the current status that you know of, having worked with so many different organizations at different sizes?
Um, yes, of course. I mean, the question is like, how does leadership change in the digital world, right? I mean, first of all, you would assume, well, leadership is leadership. In the end, it's still always the same, right? But I think there are of course fundamental changes that are happening in leading, and I mean. I will have a discussion with Andrea, I think, in 2 weeks in a one-on-one, so we can even fill an entire evening about digital leadership. So I don't want to take too much away from that, but I think in the end, everything rises and falls with the leadership, right? So if there's no leader, like with everything, with every project or change, right? If there's no leadership buy-in, or it doesn't come from the top, it will not happen and it will not work. So it will always fail. So I think the leadership is extremely important, that they are aware and they understand what they do, and above all, why they do it, right? And what we discussed yesterday also, I thought the most important newer leadership skill is to, yeah, well, it's not a new leadership skill, but I think it's fundamentally important, more important now, is to help people to upskill and to reskill, right? A lot of people are like scared or afraid of robots and AI, and we will lose all the job because of the fourth industrial revolution, and I think it's important that the leaders take this very serious, that this worries that the employees have, and point out like what is the plan or the ideas to continue working with the employees, because we cannot replace the experience that they have, or like the human touch that they have, right? With robots, that's impossible. But the skills or the tasks will change, right? So employees can get away from like this repetitive, dull, or maybe even dangerous tasks, and do more exciting things that needs more human or skills that human are good in, right? Like in the creativity and these kind of things that robots cannot do for the moment. And I think like yeah, helping the employees to re and upskill so they are ready, that is one of the most important leadership skills, I believe, right? That is very important for the moment.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
maybe I,
thank
yeah.
you. So Patrick, so you actually, if I understood you correctly, one of the key things that a digital leader should do is be more proactive in upskilling and reskilling their staff, right? Their employees or people under their care. But what would you, without going into too much detail, but just quick highlights of what are some of the skills that a digital leader needs in order to help people to come on board?
You mean the skills no, no, I just have an
What
echo.
are
Mm.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah. Sorry, I could not hear the question correctly. You mean like the skills that leaders need, or that leaders need to teach the employees?
Correct. The skills that leaders need,
Yeah.
digital leaders.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I think the human centricity. I think that is an important one, and also what need to change is the environment, and the customers and also the employees get more agile. Right. Everything goes faster. I mean, the changes are going faster. I think the leaders need to be ready for that. They need to learn also new methodologies in working, like agile, lean, and work with these methodologies to be able to pick up the speed, right? And also, I think the workforce itself is a very interesting one, because now let's say in the past you had mostly like your seniors employee that would teach like your juniors, right? But now the juniors that come into your companies are so-called digital natives, right? They know already more in the digital way than the seniors, right? So it's almost like the digital natives, the young kids, right, need to or can help the digital immigrants, right, how we call them, right, can help them, right? And that is quite interesting. So maybe the industry specific skills are still like from senior to junior, but like the digital relevant skills come from junior to senior. And I think to put these generations together, this is a new thing in this way. And I think those leaders are the best ones that manage to bring those generations together. Yeah, that's maybe a fundamental change. Yeah.
Fantastic point. That's really insightful. I mean, I didn't think about it that way, but yeah, definitely the fact that most leaderships are probably a little bit more senior. Apologies for not to sounding ages, but there are senior and there are others who are learning a lot much faster, and that's a very key point to change the direction of how learning and transformation. Transfer of information and knowledge is done. Great. Thank you, Patrick. On that same topic, I think Patrick's touched on mindset as one of the key things. I wanted Mani, if I could move to you to also elaborate from your experience, because I noticed there was an article that you had written where you said mindset is a critical part of digital transformation, right? Can you elaborate a bit more in your experience how mindset is important and key as well, not just technology?
Sure. Definitely, I'll do that. And thank you. It was an interesting question. I was listening to Patrick, and I thought like maybe I'll pick up few things from what he left out when I just go in focus of two key areas. To answer this question, I would like to connect the audience or everyone. Actually, it's a debatable topic, so it can take more time. But keeping it interest, I would like to connect with two key points, which is like a digital world strategy. What is the strategy for a digital world, and also culture for being digital, right? So these are the two aspects I would like to bring. Maybe it sound kind of a little bit overlap with also a few information or few points that Patrick has shared earlier. Going back to the concept of strategy, usually digitization drive is a top-down approach, right? And as part of the initiative from the management, that aim is to bring technology as a central pillar for innovation, expansion, and obviously the growth. So most of the programs that are designed and that are delivered are more like to go, or with a timeline, with a kind of thing, and it all of a sudden catches that kind of uh, a bit of stress for all the existing organization or the employees in the organization, like they have to catch up, or else there is something unknown that can happen if you don't catch up. So that kind of stress also gets associated with this kind of drives, and that essentially makes it a kind of less motivation factor for everyone to uh, round up or join the campaign or join the program and say, hey, yes, this is for us, for the future, right? So it's like, okay, someone is saying, my boss is saying I have to do this, I'll do this. My boss expects me to deliver a report on Zoom, I'll do it, done. So that's kind of the less motivation level that we usually see, right? And the other reason for this is like most of the teams, when they feel less motivated, they only envisage a digital record being created in spite of a manual process. Like, let's say if I'm at my desk and I have to process an invoice, right? I'll just take my own sweet time. I know how to process the invoice and I understand all the fundamentals of it. I'm a great doer. But the moment my boss says, now we are doing it on PayPal or we are doing it on Google Pay, suddenly I need to upgrade myself on how this Google Pay works, how this PayPal works, or there are certain challenges, right? And when I go back to my boss or my colleague and say, hey, how do I know when I get the confirmation of the payment done? They'll say, oh, you'll get a transaction code. What is this transaction code? I've not seen right before. Earlier, it's printed. It's all printed matter. I just use my free will and pen. The biggest tool was my pen at my desk, and I use the best to maximize the job is done, right? And I know what I'm doing when I'm signing it. I know it. I own it, right? But in a digital world, these kind of things happen. So I'm not sure what exactly is the solution. So that's what actually puts me under a bit less motivated individual. And usually I only see this like my organization is spending too much for collecting something which I also don't know, but I have to follow. It's a process, right? So this is the kind of shell I get into. Now just flip this in the other way around. I'll try to give a different perspective now. Now, when we flip in the other way around, let's say we try to bring this change from a bottom-up approach, right? Which is like I go back to my team and say, guys, this is what we have to do. Now we have to start collecting the payments in digital. So what I do, I quickly jump up and try to understand how Google Pay works, how PayPal works, or how something works. And I go back to my boss or my team saying that, if you have to use Google Pay, these are the things we have to take care. Because I'm being already acknowledged of the expert over there, right? Because I'm being not told like you have to do your job, but you have to look at this target. There is no target. I'm still free to work and I'm able to contribute a lot. Right? With this, what happens? I put my heart in it and try to get the best out of the things. And what I'll do is I'll start building up with the freedom. I start building up innovative solutions much faster because I want to make my job merrier because I want to get the big bonus, right? And there's a motivation. If I do things by myself, there's a lot of motivation to me, right? And definitely I'm trying to get my things done at my desk in the best possible way, which in fact creates a best opportunity for the team and it can give a lot of things, right? So this is definitely another approach how things can be done by the teams themselves on the ground. And this is what exactly we call as citizen development. And this is what no code can help people achieve these kind of opportunities, transform into wonderful innovations that can bring the eccentricity of taking the strategy of making a digital drive in the organization. So this is the first point. Now let me connect to the second point, which is like digital culture, like how you have to be ready. What is a culture to be ready to being digital? Mostly when I say, what is your digital story, anyone, they'll say, oh, we have a strict IT policy, the governance, we have a lot of things. We can't do this. We can't work on certain softwares. These are not allowed. They are, tend to leak some data. So a lot of things are there. So typically, the way organizations look at is more as a centralized approach because it is a cost to deliver solutions and maintain solutions and try to work on it. At the same time, ensure the data is secured and protected. And also, that's the reason when people look at it, employees look at it as an IT framework or an IT governance or IT compliance or IT policy. Oh, that's the first thing that stops me every day. Oh God, this guy is not going to accept me anyhow. So why should I think from it? So that is, if you still have this kind of forced framework or you have this kind of a grid view of looking at things, then it will not motivate the employees, right? Now, what are the issues with this kind of approach? Can I take a little bit more? We have time or?
Sure. Finish your story. It's a
Sure.
great story.
Yeah. I just have few little more thoughts. I'll just try to finish it quickly, right? So what this actually puts us in a situation is on the day-to-day jobs. When we have a lot of day-to-day jobs to finish for business, and I am the responsible person who is taking the jobs for the business, and I have the window of IT policy, everything has to go through this window, it becomes a bottleneck. So what happens is when I have to add new data, not possible. When I have to get new data, not possible. When I have to retrieve new data, not possible. When I have to search new data, not possible, right? So this is how the situation turns out to be. So all of a sudden, the IT framework or the guidelines or the policy becomes a kind of issue that everyone starts noticing, and that becomes a reason to stop doing a better work, right? And that's when I start finding reasons. How do I finish things just before the IT window closes? Let's say the IT window closes, last submission at 5 o'clock. I'll try to finish my job by 4:30. Done. So that's where the motivation, all these things lack. Now, just flip this around and say you tell the person, and the other issue here is the devices that employees get to use are again as per the role, organization hierarchy, lot of things, lot of issues, HR, lot of things are there. I don't want to get into that, but I'm just trying to give a perspective of how this can magnify as a problem, as a culture, right? To be ready for digital. So various devices, someone has a Mac, someone has a Lenovo, someone has a Dell. I don't know, still there are a lot of issues, like some people can work only on Mac. They cannot work on Dell or Lenovo, right? And the organizations has the issues on satisfying these things, and so they do it in the best possible manner by putting a structure. Again, what goes there? IT policy, IT corporate advice, whatever you can say, right? So that again puts people in an upset mode and less motivating. Now, when we flip this around and say, guys, get your own device. Don't worry what you want to do. You want to get a 5 kg laptop, get it. Please, you want to get a full robust enabled, the best processor enabled PC, get it. You only want to work from a tab, do it. You want to work from a satellite phone, do it. Device is not an issue. Get your device. What you have to do is you have to understand your job carefully, and you should be able to connect your systems. You should be able to deliver the data in time. So this actually gives a lot of comfort to users across the organization. So if I'm trying to work on something, I can stretch a bit more, because there might be some special features on my whatever the device I'm using. It can help me to tweak a little bit more. As long as whatever I'm tweaking, whatever I'm doing is as per the so-called IT policy and IT framework, I'm still good. But the freedom is with me, and that freedom gives me a lot of passion, a lot of encouragement, and I'm encouraged to do mistakes. The more I do mistakes, the more I learn, the more I innovate, and better I bring the wonderful things back to my desk, and ensure there's a lot of productivity that can come back to the desk and eventually to the organization. And this is exactly, again, what we can do with no code, because no code is technology independent. It doesn't matter what technology you are. You just interface, you define, plug, pull, whatever you want to do, you do. And here you go. The application is ready, and you can launch it on irrespective of any device. It works. If it doesn't work, then definitely there is an IT policy that is stuck. You go to the IT team, solve it. The IT team solves the policy, and you get access, and it's working. So even the job of IT folks gets minimal, and it becomes a wonderful world. And that is the culture which can create a perfect digital collaboration and enabling a lot of citizen developers across the organizations to take challenges, to take innovations, to bring a lot of new ideas that can work for the business in the right direction. And to conclude, so the key mind shift is not looking at innovating IT. It is just innovating IT solutions or trying to get latest. It is just focus has to be innovation of the IT itself. And that's the culture, I would say, and that's the mind shift change. Thank you.
Beautiful story. Beautiful story. Yeah, so if I could make a really bold statement encapsulating what you just said, Mani, is the first connection that I can make between the non-digital and digital world is, regardless whether you're non-digital or digital, first thing comes first is processes and strategy, being able to streamline yourself as an organization, regardless of whether you're online, offline. That is a key fundamental part of it. And that's also the key value in order to be able to transition and get more people to be more streamlined and in the digital ecospace. Am I right to say so?
Yes, that's right. Because everything is at a cost. There's no free lunch in these days.
Yeah. So fundamentally, we've still got to keep those practices not just about what new tool and technology you can use, but actually making sure that as an organization you've got your things in order, and then technology, accessibility comes on top of that. Right. Thank you very much, Mani. I would like to also stick on the topic of defining, digital a little bit more and move on to Darren. Darren, I wanted your perspective of, I know from your background you work with a lot of startups, right, and financing them as well. So we've gotten two perspectives from Patrick and Mani from being consultants or looking into organizations, right? But from your perspective, how so people come to you with startup ideas. What is it that you find in their pitches that they are getting right, and what do you find in their pitches that they're getting wrong about the whole digital landscape when they come to pitch to you?
Well, I mean, luckily, I mean, I'm meeting all those startups. Okay, startups mainly they are already know their things. Okay, they are already digital ready, I would say. So I mean, I don't have much problem with these people, but the major concern is this. Okay, because I'm also, I mean, like coaching these SMEs in my region here, to help them to transform digital transformation. And we have a lot of problem with this what we call it, the established SMEs. Basically, because these SMEs entrepreneurs, they fought their walls. They believe that they are good. They believe that they know what they are doing. So the problem with this digital transformation to them is something that burn their money, but necessarily to guarantee any returns. So that go against their business philosophy. So that become a problem to them. So we need to go through a long education periods to let them understand that, I mean, like, in order to enhance their productivity as well as their competitiveness, digitization is something that they cannot avoid. Especially, like we all know that, I mean, like, digital, our daily lifestyle turned into digital. I mean, I would say, I mean, like those days, I mean, I believe we are among the same age. Okay, so we used to using phone, which is the analog phone, where we had to dial, we had to dial the phone. Then I think years back, I mean, the Telecom Malaysia have turned all these analog phones into digital phones, where we just press numbers without really dialing it anymore. So you see, I mean, our daily lifestyle, everything turns digital. I mean, for the past 20 or 30 years. So I mean, we can't avoid that. Even nowadays, TVs, radios, everything, from governments are switching to digital forms. So I mean, like, you cannot like saying that, oh, okay, I mean, I'm comfortable here, I'm doing what I'm doing, I like what I'm doing, and I continue with all those. I mean that I would say, I mean, you will like get yourself disconnected from the markets. Unless you are saying that you are still an artist, you are craftsmen, that, I mean, you're still using your hands to do the artworks, to do the crafts, then yes, maybe. But still, we talk about, like, let's say digital in terms of like communicating to your clients or communicating to the markets, right? You still need to do it digital. And a lot of things is like, most of the businesses here in Malaysia, when we talk about digitization, we talk about digital transformation, a lot of them, they thought that, oh, I'm start advertising through social media. Then they thought they are doing, digitization or do the transformation. That is not actually.
I see that a lot.
That is just only the digital marketing side. You only transform your marketing to digital. But a lot of them, they thought that, oh, I already spent my budget, doing social media marketing, So I'm already, into digital, They don't understand the whole concepts. I mean, that is a major issue with what we call it, the SME side. They have a bigger misunderstanding rather compared to, like we talk about startups. Because startups, right, most of those founders, they understand what is that. Because they are mainly into, like digital kind of industries or digital kind of like background or infrastructure to support their business. Startup mainly they are using apps, like apps or something like going online. Most of them are doing those. So basically is I don't have much problem with these people, and they know better than me. I would say, they know better digital compared to me. Yeah.
Something like what Patrick said, right? They're teaching you more about what's going on digital. Yeah, so if I could anticipate what you just said, you're saying, I mean, if I understood you correctly, a large part of our economy and industry is still they're still in the traditional business, or these leaders in these organizations are getting great cash flow and revenue growth because people need them. But there is going to be a time where there is a shift where things they need to go digital. If not, they'll be suddenly left out of the game. One good example would be taxis, right? Taxis used to be around everywhere, and now with the likes of Uber and Grab, they're completely gone overnight, right? So if I understood you correctly, what you're saying, one of the areas in digital that people you think about and probably holding a lot of the employees back is because they're still in traditional business, and they haven't quite slowly, gradually made the shift to try automate things or go online, or use devices in order to transform the business. Am I correct to say so?
Yeah. Because I mean, like to them, the major thing is still their revenues. They're looking at money. So
Mhm.
that is what we call it. That I don't know. I mean, like maybe one day they will feel the pain. Like where they can't reduce their cost. Actually, digitizations, I would say, at the beginning might not be like bringing you a lot of the revenue from the beginning, but it will definitely help you to cut your costs. That's what I believe.
Okay, fantastic. All right, thank you, Darren. I just want to take a quick pause to just speak to the audience that we have. So I want to let the audience know, please do pose your questions, give your thoughts. I see already some questions, I mean, some thoughts coming in, but do pose your questions here. We will try to address them, or let the panelists speak on them. So because there is, for those, the most active and most engaged audience members, there will be some great prizes at the end of this whole Global Empowerment Summit. So please do let those questions keep coming in. Okay, going back to that topic. So, we talked about leadership, about, people in authority, but I wanted to ask, would you place any ownership to the individual to also get themselves upskilled, even if they're in a traditional business? Maybe I could ask this question back to Patrick.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Do you put any responsibility, or do you think that individuals should take how do you say it? What's the word for it? Responsibility to upskill themselves digitally instead of just waiting
Oh,
for their leaders.
yeah. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, of course. I mean, definitely, right? I mean, this was in earlier times like this, but now even more. And I think nowadays there are so many opportunities, right, to learn, to upskill yourself. Like when we wanted to learn something, right, we had to walk or to run to the library and look for a specific book. We didn't even know exactly what we're looking for, so we spent maybe half a day in the library to get the book, and then go home, start to read it, right, and try to figure out, or find people that could explain us something. But today you just go to YouTube and you watch something, right, and or you ask Google, and you probably get more or less smart answers from it. But then also you have a lot of like free resources in like e-learning platforms. Some are paid, but for little money, right? I mean, few dollars, you can do an entire 1 week course on this or that topic. So you don't know uh, anything about it. You just go to a small webinar, to a small online course, right, and you can learn very, very fast. And so I would really encourage everyone, right, to also make use of that. I mean, you need to figure out a little bit, of course, which are good courses and which are valuable. But I think it's everyone's responsibility to make sure that they learn and they progress, upskill themselves also, because the resources are there. And as I mentioned before, the leader should of course give the opportunity to do so too, like by giving the advice what would be the next big thing, or where they should venture into, maybe even support by providing the room, like the physical room, or but also the time, right, to learn. But in the end, there's nothing wrong with also watching a webinar or an online course instead of watching a Netflix movie or playing games or anything like that. I mean, it's not necessarily bad. I mean, there's some, by the way, some awesome Netflix documentaries out there where you also can learn quite a lot. For example, about leadership. Nothing wrong with that, but you get the point, right? I mean, some just overuse, I would say, Netflix by watching just series and movies, right? While you could also spend the time learn something that you need for your next job or for your next venture.
I mean, for me, an entertainment program on Netflix that I think it will be quite informational while entertaining is Mr. Robot. Do you guys watch Mr. Robot? I think it gives a little bit of insight of what's happening with their data and connectivity. So I think, I mean, I would recommend to the audience if they don't want to get deep into a digital world and learning a lot, but you can get some high level information of what's happening these days watching the program Mr. Robot. So this is a free advertisement for Mr. Robot on Netflix. Anyway, moving forward, so, okay, Patrick, the great points that you made about individuals. So I would appreciate if you could probably maybe elaborate a bit more. So that's one example that you gave where organizations can allow for individuals or the opportunity to learn while on the job, right? That's what you're talking about, giving them a separate room or time and space in order to upskill. Can you share maybe 2 or 3 other key things that businesses, organizations can do to be able to excel in digital optimization? Sorry, digital adoption. My apologies. So 3 top must-haves to be very effective online for organizations.
Top 3, yeah. Let me see. I think well, many of those we mentioned already, right? I mean, always comes back to the leadership, to the awareness, of course. But let me see what else I can add here. I mean, what was interesting, Darren just mentioned, Amani also, about like the speed is one thing, right? And then also the siloed initiatives or digital initiatives that are happening. I mean, about the speed, I think I mentioned it before, the methodologies that can or must change, right? I mean, let's talk, for example, about digital products, right? Software products and apps. I mean, in the past, we had the waterfall methodology, right? You sit down, you gather the requirements for 3 months, you make sure you have all the stakeholders, you do interviews forever, and you put it all together. In the end, you have like a 300 pages documents, like really, really outlined to the detail what you need. And then you send it to the development team, they start to develop, and then you don't hear of the guys for like 6 to 9 months. And then down the line, you get a product, and then you test the product, and everyone is like wondering what was produced, right? Because it does not fit at all to what was the requirement, and it's horrible, it does not work, and so forth. So you spend basically a year waiting, right? And resources and money for something that you cannot use, right? And if you go a different approach, like the lean startup or agile development approach, right? You work in so the difference would be that you work in sprints, maybe in a 1, 2, or 4 week sprints. That means you define the requirements, you review those, you put the backlog together, you develop it, and you show it to the customer, right? And the customer can say right away, well, this is what I needed, this is not, can you adjust this? And you can go into the next sprint with the next features, right? And the cool thing is you can test it right away, right? You can go even to the market or to the test pilots, and the customer can also tell you right away, that is cool, that is not cool, I need this, I didn't need that, right? Or the color is good, the color is ugly, whatever, right? So also working in these phases, right, from like prototype to a MVP and then to the product, are shorter, right? I mean, we are building marketplaces in maybe 6 weeks, right? So we go 2 weeks prototype, like drafting it, designing it, 2 weeks for MVP, and then 2 weeks to build the first product. So within 6 weeks, you have like a finalized product that you can use on the market, right? And then you can get your customer input, and you can do the testing, right? What works, what doesn't work, where people, which feature they like, and you can continue working on those instead of like just going down your backlog and develop things that no one is interested in. I mean, many of these products nowadays were really developed in this way, and develop according to what the customer really wants. And imagine like if you compare like what you can achieve in 1 year developing this year compared to like, yeah, as I said, the earlier times where for 3 months you see nothing, and after 9 or 12 months you see something weird. So I think that is probably one thing I can add here, really, that makes a lot of sense or have dramatically changed, and is important, right? To get that speed to market with your products in the end. I think you're muted, or I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Is it just me?
Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it was me. Again, some sort of ghost connectivity button that pushed my mute button. Apologies. Yeah, Money, I wanted to ask you now, Patrick shared some great challenges that are there, right, in the processes and ways of things of working to go digital. In your experience with no code platform, right, no code application building platforms, can you give us a story of how a no code platform has managed to avoid some of the challenges that Patrick just shared that a lot of organizations go through?
Definitely, definitely. Let me try to put my best answer here and make the explanation from a different perspective. Okay, let me try to take all of us into two different worlds. Now, let's start with something called as non-digital world. In a non-digital world, let's say we have what a great fresh coffee at the desk, some papers at the desk, and some thoughts and my will to work, right? And it's basically the freedom, the way I would like to work and having that great cup of coffee and I can finish things and all. So end of the day, data is available in more a raw format, right? And it's my own personalized view of looking at what I am focusing on. And end of the day, it is also available in a physical or a tangible form, which I can actually look at it and take the information. Now let's jump into the digital world. Digital world, yes, we can also have a coffee. Coffee is still allowed. That's fresh and energizing. But we are, we start our day with alerts, the WhatsApp updates, or a lot of updates that come from our scheduler, or all these things, right? So it looks up like everything is piled up. We, in fact, see a lot of traffic on our systems and devices the way we start our digital day. And the moment we are at our desk, it's already too much of noise around the things that are happening. So it's actually a person attention to catch up. If I don't catch up, it's gone. Again, it goes into the next level of cycle where I have to reach out to other colleagues and try to get it back to my desk and then try to deliver it, right? This is the typical. So it is more a predefined structure, and it's more a systematic view or a standardized view, and more in an electronic format. So if I'm not prepared for it, I actually lose out in this world, right? So I have to keep constantly leveraging myself on my skills. Okay, my intent is correct, but still I need the skill to deliver, because this is a predefined thing. I have no control on it. If I'm too liberal, assuming that I can deliver things, I am the first person to be out, because the system drives itself, right? So this is a typical digital world. Now, let's jump out of these two worlds. What we see, the common thing that any of these worlds is the data. In one area, we are trying to create data which I know and I understand, and it's better, whatever. In the other way, data is there. I'm trying to use the best use of it and try to present it in the way. So, in a nutshell, if you look at in either of the worlds, we are trying to work on creating data, searching data, retrieving data, and trying to present it. So, and the intelligence is on presentation and what we are interpreting from the data that we are seeing. If I see a, if I let's say if I put a pie graph all by my own self by using all the data in the practical way, drawing on the paper, I exactly know how I got it because I put some effort. But when I pull it up using a numbers on an Excel sheet, there is still a level of error until I double check it, right? Because the system just pulls up the data the way it has been told, right? It doesn't understand that my expectation is something, right? So when you look at all this kind of task or these kind of insights, what we are looking at is typically the data is in a format of GIGO, which we know, garbage in, garbage out, right? Now, if we can process that very well, understand that and process that very well, then there can be another scenario, which we can actually look at it. The other scenario is now for a moment, let's assume the processing fundamentals or either the non-digital world or the digital world are on the same scale or on the same level, right? Now, what changes is the logic. In a non-digital world, I don't get a chance to play with the logic because if I have done a pie diagram, if I have to do a bar diagram, I have to redo it. There is nothing. I have to restart and recreate it. That recreation has to happen. But the same in a digital world, I can just transpose it into a different thing. I can just go select the properties. It changes itself from a pie to a bar graph. Are you getting? So that's the kind of change. So what we are seeing here is the only gain that anyone gets by using a digital is the logical interpretation and the logical presentation of the data, and that is what most of the times we infer as intelligence. So when we have a normal processing, the same intelligence is available, but over a period of time, it takes some effort and time. But in a digital world, we can, at the same instance, reposition the data in a different interpretation or a different presentation, and what we are playing is only with the logic. So if you have to make a marriage between these two worlds, the common line, the common backbone is like the data, and we have to keep the processing as constant. Then what you can play is only with logic. The more you can play with logic, the better interpretation, the better results, and better intelligence for business. Now let's take this analogy and put it back. So we have to move from a world of GIGO, which is garbage in, garbage out, to logic in, result out.
Yeah.
So if we understand this concept of logic in, result out, that's where the wonder starts happening. Now, this is a practical example of a no-code, because no-code doesn't really look at where the data is coming from. It is blind to data. It just pulls the data. And it gives you in a full playground with all freedom, all tools, play. Build your complete playground with all the logics you can. And you are just pulling in, dragging, selecting something, putting a flow, putting an arrow mark, deleting an arrow mark, whatever. Finally, whatever you want, the system will does and give it to you. So that is what I say as logic in, result out. And that is the power of digital, and that is the power of no code. Now let's put this as an example to a real-time situation in a company. Let's say I'm a very small company with 10 salespeople, right? My sales force every day, just they are still good with the coffee. So they are basically from the non-digital world, so they like coffee. So they always buy coffee and they are in the market with the coffee. Now the challenge is, when they collect the data, when they meet the customers, when they collect the data, when they do whatever the jobs that are assigned, they have to rush all the way back to the office to say, listen, we had a coffee, ensure that that has been highlighted, and all the other jobs that we have done for today, and we are done. This is what the data. And that's when the office, the next day, the office processes this data and brings up the report saying that so many customers are interested, so many customers are willing to buy, so many customers have paid the advance. Now, if we can give the sales guy or the salesperson who is working on this job a power, use your smartphone, do whatever you want to do. I just want the consent from the customer, whether he's buying or is trying to do. So, and if I tell him, use your smartphone to maximize, maybe the salesperson can come with a very innovative idea of, I met this customer and I took a selfie. And that's it. It proves that I had an interaction. I don't need to explain all the details. Now, if the customer is interested, he will definitely make a payment. And I'll show that as a payment received from this interaction. Right? This is a very simple way of changing what we are doing in a normal process. So we are in the non-digital world, but we are trying to use the digital means at the same instant to report what has happened. So capturing a selfie is a bridge between the non-digital and the digital world, which explains everything, right? And the selfie can be looked at back at the back office and said, "Oh, okay, the customer is smiling, so he's going to buy. So let's spend more time with the customer." Like the customer is not so happy, or you can ask the customer to draw a face. Please, sir, can you draw a face? If the customer puts an angry face, we know that he's not interested, right? Or there's something seriously wrong. We are overselling him, right? Or there's too much of things we are doing. So there's a very simple marriage of the non-digital and the digital world, and which can actually bring the relevant data that business needs to know only one thing. Is a customer is interested or he's not interested? Will he buy or will he not buy? So once these things are clear, it makes the bridge happen. And that's exactly what I called as logic in, result out kind of a processing. Now, when we have this kind of situations, and believe me, we have been testing almost like 70 plus no-code platforms over the last 4 years, and we have built many applications on no-code, and most of them we find the similar experiences where the customers who have taken the solutions have expressed back to us, "Oh, this is so good. We didn't expect that it can work like this," right? So the magic they are seeing is because of the bridge that is getting created in a non-digital world using a digital means and creating a result for the logical activity they are doing, right? So this is all like the connecting the dots, and that's what we can do with no code. And in reality, it happens. And believe me, this is contagious once you get used to it, and it is contagious. And basically, it looks like all the technology factors seems to look very smaller, or sometimes it also disappear. I don't even think of a CRM when I'm with my customer. I just take a selfie and say, done. Let the back office do whatever they want to do with that selfie in the CRM, ERP. They want to send the invoice, let them send. So it is basically the reality of this kind of bridges called no code, which can bring the gap much smaller and make a smarter world for every one of us. That's what I have to share.
Great. Thank you very much. So that's a great segue, because so basically the next point that I wanted to discuss was like the importance of going digital, right? And Patrick, you touched on a few points which talked about the speed and efficiency, because everything is going a lot faster. So and Money, you also shared on how platforms like this allows you to do things a lot more efficiently with speed, and at the same time get better feedback for you to continuously improve, right? So those are the key things that I took out of both your responses. Darren, I want to ask you the question as well. So when it comes to the importance of going digital, right? From your perspective, what issues do you see when you have a large portion of the large portion of the audience who is advancing digitally, and then another part of the population who is struggling or not connecting to the digital world? What can you speak of that from your experience?
Okay. Yeah. Basically, I mean, like, as we know, I mean, there are a lot of issues in between where like whether to switch or not to switch kind of thing. And of course, the main concern is still like what you have mentioned earlier, accessibility as well as the affordability. And of course, we understand that. I mean, like, if we talk about like individual to turn digital or not turning digital, that is actually quite individual, I would say. Like whether you want to keep yourself into your phone, or you still writing on the papers, you still have notebook around, that's quite individual. But I mean, like from my jobs and from my professions, of course, I basically I'm looking at the business point of view. There are a few things that I mean, like a lot of small businesses, especially small scale kind of business, they always have this concern where digital transformation is costly. That is what they always think. And of course, we understand that. I mean, like, you need to spend a lot, in order to upgrade your infrastructures kind of thing. But I mean, a lot of people don't know that actually there are few alternatives at a lower cost, where I mean, you don't have to put in your 100% into making digital transformation so difficult. As we know that, I mean, there are a lot of alternative like options where because I mean, like, from I mean, previously I worked with quite a lot of startups, and I mean, all these startups are mainly, they are like developing apps. And I mean, I from all these, I mean, like, my past experience, I mean, with these companies, basically their apps is very sort of like, to me, is very good, because I mean, like, when they're developing their apps, right, first they try to, build out a huge community, a big group of fans, where I mean, they are going to download the apps and try to use the apps. So basically they already have the community. So what they need is for the businesses to go on board into their apps, onto their apps, where their community can start using, the service, or start, using the apps kind of thing. So it's a two-way kind of thing. Is to complete the whole ecosystem. But most of their problem is that when they have this big community, the problem is that businesses, they can't get the right businesses to go on board. So at the end, some of them, dying off, or fail, because of the ecosystem is not complete. That, I mean, when there are no businesses, or no merchants on the apps, the community will slowly, like leaving, because I mean, like, nothing in the apps. So I start to, uninstall it, or I don't use it so frequent. So you'll see the users dropping. So I mean, I would encourage businesses, if you really see the potential in turning digital, you want to turn your business to digital, and you feel that, I mean, you have limited budgets, don't because of your budgets, and you say that, okay, you forgo the plan. You can always look for these good apps with a good community, where they are waiting for you to go on board. That is one of the easiest way for you to turn your business digitally, where there are a big group of community waiting for you to be there, and they can start to support your business. From what we can see, I mean, over this 1.5 years, where Malaysia, or most of the world, they have this lockdown, people are staying at home, and you're not moving. Most of the businesses, I mean, we talk about like small businesses, like food stores, hawkers, I mean, people can't go out to buy from you. What you can do is just put your food onto like apps, like, we have Food Pandas, we have Grab Foods, we have a lot more options. These are apps, I mean, these apps are already ready with a lot of users. As long as you put your food on there, your business can, just start right away. And that is, turn your business digitally. I mean, you don't have to, start from the scratch, you spend money developing a new apps just to sell your food. No point doing that. You just do a simple way, get something ready, you just go on board, and the cost won't be too much, and you can always, if you are good, you can always negotiate to get a good deal. And seriously, I mean, Malaysia, there are a lot of apps, and I can see a lot of good apps, in not only Malaysia but also in Southeast Asia. So I mean, like try to explore, more opportunity. Don't always limit yourself to your knowledge, because maybe you didn't see it, because you don't know, that's how it works. So you always think that, oh, I don't have so much money, so I better don't do it. So it's a waste. I would say it's a waste, because I mean, like, no matter how, I mean, one day, everything will turn digital. And if you don't do it today, you might be too late. That's what I want to say. So, I mean, always look for more options. You compare which is best suits your business. And, you can always come and talk to the right person, and we can always try to help you. San?
Apologies. There seems to be some automatic way of me going to mute. Sorry. Yeah, so I was saying, Darren, so essentially what you're saying is be open, be flexible. Don't just be, narrow-minded in a digital idea that you have. Be open to find opportunities, because it does, going digital does provide you a new opportunities in a lot of different areas. And an example you gave was, the marketplace of being online in, on marketplaces like Grab, etc., Food Panda. So those provide an extra opportunity where, traditionally it would have just been your local area for a food vendor. Now you have new opportunities and a larger market space and audience to reach. So that's an important reason why businesses, big or small, should go digital, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And
Right.
I think Malaysia, I mean, we are quite lucky, because we have this I believe most of you have heard about it, is the MDEC, like Malaysia Digital Economies Corporations. They are being helpful, I mean, they are always open, like businesses or entrepreneurs who like to, like want to know how, how to do their digital transformation. They are always willing to help. So you can always go to them, and they are a very good team of people. Yeah.
Great, fantastic. Thanks, Darren. I'd like to take this opportunity to segue into the question of, to deep dive a bit more. I think we touched on it, but where is the gap exactly, right? At the same time, for the audience as well, please write in your personal opinion, or where have you experienced the gap, while I continue to ask the panel more insights about their experience. So if I could go to Patrick. Patrick, you've got the experience and exposure living in a wide variety of different countries, including Switzerland, China, Malaysia. I did a little bit of research on you. And all these countries and nations have quite different types of societies, right? Culture, the equality in terms of the wealth, as well as government regulation and government control. So, do you think the digital gap, from your experience, is just what most people assume is just as an issue only in developing nations, or is this something you see across the board throughout the world from your experience?
Yeah, I mean it's indeed quite a good question, Sanjay. I mean, in general, at first, of course, you would say like, yeah, industrialized countries have an advantage, right? They can go fully digital, right? But then right away you think about China, and then you think like, well, I mean, still considered a developing country, right? Of course, they are catching up quite fast, but what you see there in terms of digital is just crazy, right? I mean, I always share like my my memory, or the best thing I keep in mind forever is like that must be like 8 years ago, right? When I lived there, and I was using WeChat, like the app that is developed by Tencent. There is like, and once it was like similar to WhatsApp, right? You can just communicate with other people, and you can form groups, right? and and but to what developed WeChat very fast, there was just so impressive. So 8 years ago with WeChat, I would also book or make a reservation in a restaurant, right? So the Haidi Lao restaurant, which we now also have here in Malaysia, right? I would book it via WeChat right away, so I can choose the Haidi Lao WeChat account. I can go to Shanghai and have to figure out which branch I have to choose. So of course the local had to show me which one is the correct one, and then I can say 8 o'clock for people, right? And I make the reservation in the WeChat app. And before I go there, right, it will send me reminders. I have to go there. I can pre-book like which hot pots I want, and the ingredients I want and everything, right? And when I go there at 8 o'clock, they bring me to the table, and everything is there already, right? So I eat, I can add some stuff, and once I'm done, I can check out and pay with WeChat Pay, right? So everything, my entire interaction with the restaurant happened in one app, and that was 8 years ago, right? So that was so impressive to me, and especially if you compared like what could WhatsApp do at that time. I mean, I was doing video calls on WeChat, and then WhatsApp didn't have that at all, right? So only very later it came, and everyone was excited in Europe. Oh, I was like, wow, I'm using like WeChat calls like for years already. And so that's just like one example which I remember that was quite impressive. So I and interestingly, I came a few days before we talked last. I came across this report by the World Economic Forum. It's called the Digital Riser Report 2021, and it is a comparison of the G20 countries, right, on how let me see how they specify that, like that analyzes and ranks the changes that countries around the globe have seen in their digital competitiveness over the last 3 years. And now you would be surprised who is leading. I mean, not surprised China is leading, but then next you have Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Argentina, Turkey, and Indonesia. So all developing countries, they were leading the digital race in the past 3 years, right? And at the bottom, well, at the bottom, I was first of all surprised India was at the bottom, but just above India is Japan and Germany, South
Hmm.
Africa, and then UK and US. So when I see this report, it's like I have to read it and really understand what it really means, because it was so confusing, right? It's like, isn't it the wrong way around, right? But
Hmm.
this is what it is. So long answer to the short question, right? I think no, the gap we cannot find in developing versus industrials or developed country, right? We cannot find it there. We need to find it somewhere else. But of course, what has an impact is policies, again, mindset. It's a mindset of the public, right? And with policies, I mean, for example, the privacy concerns, right, which are maybe in developed country higher, right? Or like there's more concerns, right? I mean, to put like a video camera or CCTV somewhere in the road in Europe is not that easy. And in Malaysia, you would just hang it up, right? It's like, in the end, it helps your safety, right? And that is the other side of the coin, right? I mean, in China, I mean, I really felt safe. I didn't feel like anyone would ever rob me, or I would become like a victim of a criminal act in China, because there's cameras everywhere, right? And then on the other side, I think I feel quite safe, right? I feel even safe for my wife and for my kids. I don't think anything can happen at all. But where I can see maybe a gap, and that was, I think, a interesting question by one of the audience asked before. I think Nina asked that before, right?
Yeah.
Like how sorry, I take the question before you
Please do. I was
go
going
through
to
it.
do it, so you beat
Just
me to it.
it just fits so well, right? I mean, that the gap is probably more to be found between cities and the urban region, right? Because if
Mm,
you have no internet, then digital will be quite difficult, you know. Yeah, why would you have like a smartphone if you cannot access a web page, or if you cannot send emails with it? It makes no sense at all. So you keep your old or you have no mobile phone at all, maybe even. So I think there is maybe the bigger gap. And maybe some of these crazy initiatives by Google and Facebook, I think it is they're sending now satellites or these balloons, right, to orbit, so even the rural areas can have internet. I mean, on one side it's crazy, but on the other side it's also quite impressive that this can be done, and that maybe closes also the gap, right, between digital maturity, maybe. Yeah.
yeah. Actually, Sin Fung Chan, another audience member, has mentioned complacency might be the problem. So I was actually going to ask you, in that report that you were sharing, how everything seemed to be flipped by the nations. Do you think maybe those, what you thought was supposed to be the digital leaders, they had got into a complacent pace, versus developing nations are now trying to catch up and stay ahead? Is that what was the reason behind the report? Why the flip? It didn't mention in the report what was the reason why such a big flip.
No, well, I don't remember anything of that. I mean, probably also, I mean, the approach is different. Yeah, I mean, the government support maybe is different. Um, well, I think then the reasons between the different countries might also all be different, right? I mean, the
Mhm.
reason why China is so much on the top compared to maybe Argentina or Indonesia might be quite a different one. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Mani, I'd like to ask you from your experience. Maybe you could share some light into your experience or knowledge of some groups or communities that are, left behind or having are impacted by this gap. Could you share some of your experience of whether certain groups that you know of that are left behind in the non-digital world, so to say?
Yeah, sure. Let me answer this question. See, there are a lot of instances where I have come across like that. Typically, areas like education, or typically areas like where people can exercise the services of any government or any local infrastructure, which is actually going digital, right? The access to these kind of things is still a big gap in a lot of areas, and there are many pointers to that. But before I take you there, I would like to just give a couple of other insights that I thought would be relevant. Right. See, our lives in this current world revolve around these digital platforms. Like we live, we learn, we work, we play technology. So we accept or not, this is what is happening as we are witnessing it the way it is. And one of the key reason for that is power of the smartphone mobility. The power of smartphone has brought everything into the power of thumb. So whatever you could maximize on the mobile screen, or whatever you could reach on the mobile screen, is the maximum reach you can have. So this is the choice of the customer. So if the customer can actually reach from left to the right, or in the swipe, how all the apps he can reach, that is the maximum area we can cover. So that is the real estate of the mobile phone. That is where the power of software mobility is, right? So that's how a lot of people are trying to get into this access to software and smartphone, and try to make it much easier. But for them, that being the driving factor, what it is actually enabling them with this driving factor, it's basically the expectations have gone higher. Like everyone would like to have faster information. Like let's say couple of years ago, if I have a thought to ask anyone, I would have taken some time, the permission, and then I would have asked. Now it's just like I do a WhatsApp, done. So irrespective of how they receive it, I'll do WhatsApp from my end and it's done. If they respond, that's okay. If they don't respond, then I'll follow up until I get. In the same way, if I want to know about something, I just go to Google and type it. Whatever Google gives me, it's like taken for granted, right? But there are a lot of issues on how this information is available on Google. A lot of other areas that can also come into play. And the reason why I'm highlighting this is typically the kind of the issue about affordability, and what exactly we are trying to access, and what we are not able to access is the realistic information that a lot of these governments, a lot of this whatever is available for us to make a better living and improve our lives every day, being the better humans. That part of the information is hard to access, right? And that's exactly is the gap. Rest all the commercial stuff, as I explained, the power of the mobile is the real estate that it can swipe from left to right on the screen. So that's the area. Whatever we can cover, that's what the best one. Now what is this leading to? This is leading to also economic empowerment, which is more and more people want to go online shopping, more and more people want to do paperless transaction. So this is a different trend that is driving and it's on a search to get to the next level, where more and more services can go on this page, and that's where the need or the demand for more digital access is getting created, and that's where the gap is. So everyone would like to fit in that real estate of the thumb, of left to the right swipe on the mobile, and that's the area everyone is competing and trying to get in there. But how good is that information, or how it is helping the human life, or how we are improvising, is a big gap. With this economic empowerment, whatever is happening, there are certain key issues that are to be addressed. These are like across. And these issues are literally the reasons, the core reasons, I believe, for the gap. One is digital literacy. There are a lot of programs that are being given, but no one empowers and encourages people about digital literacy, like why you should be on digital, why it is required. So there are no structured programs. Like we have a lot of academic programs, a lot of co-curricular programs, a lot of industry driven programs, but there is no focus on imparting or sharing digital literacy to people. Second, for the economic empowerment, we are seeing the economic empowerment. Like whatever I want, I can buy on Amazon, I can buy on Flipkart. But when we look at it, the back end digital commerce infrastructure is still most of the times a kind of a shaky bit. Sometimes it can go through, sometimes it doesn't go through. If it doesn't go through, I drop my phone, I pick up the phone line and start talking to the Amazon team. What happened? Where is my parcel? Because the phone doesn't work anymore, right? So that's still the problem, right? So the digital commerce infrastructure is still like in broken pieces and broken parts, and that is not actually favoring the economic empowerment, and that's where you see a lot of issues. And another reason for this commerce infrastructure or whatever is like, this is a very usual scene you get when, well, let's say I'm checking out a cart from Amazon. I go to step 2, they'll ask for delivery information. Yes, I click them. Then they ask my payment card. I click them. Then I don't get the receipt. For the 2 or 3 minutes I don't get the receipt, I can imagine what is the stress I'm going through. Because I'm not sure whether it has happened, has not happened. That is what exactly I'm talking about, the digital commerce infrastructure. So that has to be literally addressed. Unless that is addressed, this will not make the empowerment much easier and much less. And if you go in the industry level and try to understand why this is happening, that is happening because of the speed of the internet. Not every area is connected with the same access and speed of the internet because of the infrastructure, because the way the technology has been evolved, the way the locations or the geographies have adopted technology, right? And there are various private public participation in the overall scenario of rolling out of this technology and making it available. So that is also a bigger issue on causing a one simple question: why the speed of internet is like not addressable. Like if I'm on one side of the road, it shows 4G. I just walk on the other side of the signal, it quickly comes down 3G. And when I call the telecom guys and ask what is happening, they'll say it's not in our coverage area, or you are going away from our coverage area. I don't know when this will be solved, but this is the another key issue. This is a practical issue which is stopping users to empower themselves and get more connected with the digital ecosystem or environment. And until they empower even for their personal needs, I don't think I would like to even learn why PayPal is required for me in my life. The digital literacy will not come, right? So this is a basic questions that are actually stopping the people or the users who are doing it. And on top of that, technology evolution. This is again another scary thing. We have all of a sudden chatbots that appear on the websites. So let's say I used to go to a website earlier, it was like plain, I just used to browse and come back. But now when I go to some websites, there's a chatbot waiting for me and it will just catch me out. And it will not let me in or let me go anywhere. So I'm confused, like where am I? Right? First of all, I'm having issues with the internet, and there is someone who is catching like a phantom and is not letting me do anything. He wants to answer all the questions, he wants to sell, do a lot of things. But if I skip this phantom guy, then I can know what this business is into. So this is another crazy evolution which has not been explained properly to the users, right? So that's also a reason what it goes to. And all of this is leading to one simple point. What is my prime motive to go digital as a user? Right. So when I see, like I want to go shopping, until the cart is good, I am good. I can select hundreds of things, but from cart to receipt, I have all my world of worries, right? And similarly, I don't know why when I walk across a signal, it drops, right? So these are all kind of little things that even happening right now as we are talking, right? And that is a prime motor which is pushing the users down on what is that prime, what is the interest for me to go digital? When I am not interested, why should I get digital literacy? Right? There are a
Correct.
lot of
Great,
things I
great
have to
point.
learn.
Great,
I have to
great
learn
point.
and make my life better. Why should I go behind digital literacy? Why should I be a digital expert? Right? So these are
Yeah,
the things that are revolving, and these are the very, very grounded issues that are creating the gaps and widening the gaps, and moreover creating the digital divide. And just
correct.
to sum up,
Thank,
a computer savvy workforce is crucial for achievement of a country's economic development, or it is a blueprint. Definitely, this can only reduce the digital divide. So, if a country or any location wants to make the best on digital, start looking at uh, educating your users or your customers, your members, your whatever at what level. Just tell them digital is normal,
right.
just like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
new norm.
yeah.
COVID,
True.
however, COVID has taught us what is new normal, but yeah,
Yeah,
still we have to
yeah.
keep our education to ensure new normal is digital. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I would
correct.
like to
'Cause
say.
yeah, it's great because I mean, when people talk about awareness is important, but exactly what you touched on, which I really liked, was it's awareness on the benefits for that individual, right? That's where people are talking. It's not just about telling them about all the great things you can do on digital, but what specifically for me is, am I going to get out of it when I go digital, even if there is some issues in the learning process? So great, thank you very much, Pani. Unfortunately, that I wish I could speak a lot more, and there's a lot more questions. Thank you so much for so much insightful and storytelling participation. I want to we're drawing close to the amount of time we have left. I want to spend the last 10 minutes or less actually, because we want to round it off as well, to ask the panelists. I believe this is the key important question for today's panel discussion, right? What can we and the audience do to bring awareness and support for this issue of the divide between the digital and non-digital? Share some experience or your personal insights or thoughts on why what we can do to bring awareness and take action on this. If I could start with Darren, please.
Okay. Well. Huh. Now, to me, is like, I look at digital differently compared to most of the people, because a lot of people thought that digital is something related to online. Okay. But basically, digital is related to online, or but not everything digital must be online. That's what I believe, and that's what I can see as well. For a very clear example that I can tell, audience, that not saying that you don't have the internet access, you cannot go digital. There are something digital that you don't really need internet access. Like, you see what happened in China now. Okay, they have this, what we call it, the central bank electric currency. Okay, those years where you using this Alipay or WeChat Pay, you need internet access to scan and you pay. Okay, but with their current, the latest, this what we call it, the central bank electric currency, you don't really need internet to make payment. Okay, they can do that in the whole countries, whether in the rural area, in on the mountain, in the jungle, wherever, they can pay by just scanning without internet access. So there is a lot of possibility in digital world. So don't stop yourself here. Explore more, learn more, and you will know there are a lot of possibility. Like what Sinfong said here, physical delivery or shipment can never be digital. This never. I don't believe this is going to be something never happen, because the logic of the quantum internet, the quantum, I believe you can deliver items, solid items, through internet. So that might be happen one day. Maybe not today, not tomorrow, but one day. Yeah. Yeah, you're muted.
Apologies. I have no idea what keeps happening. Sorry, Patrick. Yeah, over to you, Patrick. What are your final thoughts on the action and awareness, or how can we bring more awareness to the challenge of bridging the gap?
I think I would just align that with Darren. I think embracing digital is maybe a good thing. We should not see it as a curse. We always see like, oh, it happened this or happened that. Even money was just like talking about the chatbots, right? But in the end, I mean, okay, let's say there's also bad digital initiatives, but let's say in general, I think life should be better with digital. I was just quote a good friend of mine just recently. I was in a car. I'm driving somewhere here at the curve, and it's like a huge construction site, and it's impossible just to find the right way. And she was saying like, oh, if I didn't have the GPS, right, I would be completely lost. Even with a map, a paper map, we could never find the right way. And I was like, yeah, it's true. I mean, there's so many inventions and innovations, right, that are around that really help us and make our life easier and simpler. And we should focus a little bit more on these things than the other things that come with it, but are maybe not so great.
Thank you very much, Patrick and Bunny. As you draw close, any few final words on what people listening can do in order to bring awareness and take action to bridge the gap.
Yeah, I am in total connect with what Darren and Patrick has said. The chatbot was the easy humor for me to explain what is the issue. Okay, so just to connect it, but what I see today is like everyone has the power to access internet. Yeah, there are some issues. Definitely, it has to be resolved, but everyone can have an access to internet and just try to get on to some kind of platforms, try to experiment, focus on increasing your digital literacy. You should not end up in such a situation like going to the GPS example. Like I should not be lost in a forest and then I don't know how to connect to some map where I could come back to the city, right? So that should not be the case. So we should be able to uh, understand how things work, embrace definitely digital, and work with all the upgrades that are coming on technology, and keep learning and keep reinventing yourself. That's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Mani, for the discussion today. Great, insightful information. I also want to say a very big thank you to our audience. It's Friday evening, Friday afternoon. It's the end of the week, so I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. So thank you very much. I hope it was as informational, insightful for you. So to wrap things up, I mean, my key takeaways is, digital is not just all about technology. There's mindset involved. There's leadership that needs to be involved and process to be put in place where when you go digital, that then helps to bridge that gap, right? And the other key point I would say was education awareness is also of course very important. Accessibility. So go and try and test out and be adaptable versus very narrow-minded in the way that you want to approach the subject. I think those are my key takeaways. I hope you have yours. Please share also what your key takeaways are. As I said, the more you participate, the more you'll be in running for a great prize at the end of the Global Empowerment Summit. So to really close off the last few minutes that we have, I would love for the panelists to, in one brief minute, tell how the audience or people who watch this video can reach out, connect with you, maybe share their thoughts and get more insights from you. So starting with Darren, how can people connect with you?
Well, I mean, always look for my LinkedIn. Even though I mean I have reached 30,000 connections, I might not be able to accept your invitation, but I mean you can always follow me, and you know where to
Yeah,
get me.
a very popular man. Thank you, Darren. And Patrick, how can people connect with you?
Same here, not 30,000 connections yet, so feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And also, you can follow my YouTube channel, a small podcast with entrepreneurs, which are really quite inspiring, sharing their stories of up and downs. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, Patrick. And Money.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone, I would like to invite to access to LinkedIn URL, and I am available. Still, I'm trying to reach 30,000 as a target, so so it might take some time. I'm a bit less illiterate on digital, on especially on the LinkedIn, so it is taking time. So I'll catch up. So that's the part, and also users can follow on my YouTube channel on SolveWorks, where we do a lot of demo videos on how things can be maximized with a little click of a button or using the no-code platforms, and they can follow and they can also reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Once again, thank you for the audience for joining in. I hope it was insightful. A pleasure speaking to you, dear panelists, and have a great Friday evening. Speak to you all soon. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye
Have a
bye,
great
everybody.
weekend.
Thanks.